Hey, Jack. All right. You got this stuff?
Yeah. All cleaned and oiled.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Let's get it on.
Who are these guys?
It's my theme music. Every good hero should have some.
Live from Springfield, Missouri, the one, the only, Heath Green.
Excuse me, can I get a cup of coffee? Black? Can't you see we talking? White?
Good morning, everybody. Me, Keith, here from Tremendicon, live here in Springfield, Missouri. We're going to have a very special episode today. I mean, of course, if you read the title card, we're celebrating anniversaries. But first, we have a very special guest live from Tremendicon. I'm here with the gaming legend, Ross Babcock. And he is going to come on and just, there you hello, Ross.
Hello.
And of course, we're also still going to have Martin, as always, the man with the plan, and Pope, who's going to come in and help make this a very jolly episode. How are you, gentlemen?
Doing good. Thank you for having me on for this, man.
Good.
Doing fine.
Well,
very
sorry,
excited
like
for our
technical
guest.
difficulties, and you know, me trying to basically figure out which way is up. And you know, I'm such an ace with technology. But hopefully, everybody watching is having the start of a very good day. And I figure first and foremost, we'll start talking to Ross here and ask some very pointed questions, hopefully that he'd be willing to answer. First of all, let me ask my first question. How did you get started in gaming? I mean, who chooses this?
How does anybody get started in gaming? You know, not giving away my age or anything, but you know, we started with army men and army soldiers and building Lincoln log castles and destroying them with you know, in our bedroom. Then that graduated to wanting to do our own game, you know, create our own game. This was probably 7th or 8th grade at this point. And we had a grand scheme to recreate massive war game. Then we discovered France 1940 from Avalon Hill. And played that, and you know, that led to SBI and other war games. That was my initial interest. War games. This was either just pre D&D or concurrent with D&D, and then it was off to college. I went to the Merchant Marine Academy, where they had a war games club and chess club, and you know, the big thing there was we had some nuts who wanted to play war in Europe all the time. So more big war games, visits to SBI, doing play testing for them, and then the first D&D campaign and Traveler eventually.
Wow.
And when I was a senior, Jordan Weissman was a freshman, and we met, played Traveler at school, D&D at school, other things. When I graduated and he left, happened we both lived in Chicago, so the Traveler game continued. And as with any game, you start making designs. You make stuff that you want in your game. So we started doing 15 millimeter deck plans for Traveler, and took them down to a gaming shop and said, "Gee, you think anybody might be interested in these?" And I think it was called Games Plus in Lisle, Illinois. They said, "Yeah, we'll take a dozen of each." And oh, why don't you send some samples to these distributors? This is where we get our games from. So we sent those sample copies out to a couple of, to several distributors, and I think it was between Christmas and New Year's of 1980. We were playing Traveler on a Sunday afternoon, and there was a knock on Jordan's door, and it was a special delivery letter from Penhurst Distributors. They were in Michigan at that time. And inside was an order for 300 each of our Dex plans and a check to pay for them all. And that was the beginning of FASA.
Wow. Yeah, you guys, FASA is a legend. Okay, I just got to say, I've had several of your games, although I'm not as big a gamer as certain other people that are currently on this show. I'm not mentioning any names, Martin, but yeah, you guys have provided hours of endless entertainment. I just want to thank you on behalf of
Thank you.
myself and all my friends in high school. I mean, I always thought, as one does, you think you can think of a lot of stuff and dream of a lot of stuff, and yet you dreamed it within the concept of rules and games, and you allowed other people to just play within that.
That was our hobby. That was, that's what we spent our time doing. And playing other people's games was great, but to getting other folks to pay us to make games for them, we said, our overriding philosophy is to always create games that we wanted to play, and hope that that everybody else would follow along, would like our stuff. And it's worked pretty good, I just have to say.
Yes. Martin, do you have a question?
Well, before that, Keith, the echo is very noticeable. So I think for the time being, what we have to do is, when you're not talking, you better be mute. So
yes.
Okay. And question. Oof.
Now, don't be shy. You can ask more than one.
Well, I'm a fan of the BattleTech franchise and universe, as is my friend Pope here, which he knows really, really about it. I'm a peasant of sorts about the lore, but there's always that thing in the back of my mind. What was the inspiration for BattleTech? And specifically, those two main factions between the Inners and the clans. What gave you that idea?
Well, remember, let's start off with the inspiration for BattleTech. As I said, company really started in late 1980. We quickly got in touch with Game Designers Workshop, and they gave us a license to do licensed Traveler stuff. This led us to start going to conventions. One of the conventions we went to was called the HIA show, Hobby Industries of America show, where game companies went, but craft companies and all kinds of folks showed up at a huge show, usually held in California. 1984, we were at the show, and of course, one of the things you do when you go to a trade show is you wander around the floor and see what everybody else is doing. And the story goes that Jordan walked by a booth, and they were selling little plastic model kits of Japanese robots. And got to talking, and yeah, no, we could order them in bulk. And then we said, cool, these are really nifty little kits. They started about 3.5 inches tall. And we can come up with a game that will use these as the playing piece. And that's how Battle Droids was born. And the first 1,000 copies we had made had 2 little plastic model kits in it. I think Shadowhawk and Griffin were what they were called. And we wanted to create a story that explained why these two were fighting and what they were and how they worked and all that sort of thing. And thus the Inner Sphere was born. My phone is ringing. And we put it out there, and lucky for us and lucky for everyone, the idea took off. It resonated with folks. And the side story is, during the end of 1984, we released the game in the summer of 1984, and we got the letter from Lucasfilm objecting to our use of the word, or the droids. And we said, well, okay, we'll change our name. And Battletech was the result. And from 1985 on, Battletech was the game. One of the things we wanted to do was, we didn't want a static universe. We wanted a living universe where the story was ongoing, where we could keep things moving, give an interest. If you're going to pick one of the 5 houses, give a reason to fight for them, and tell the story about each house's rise and fall, ups and downs. As the years go by, the Fourth Succession War created some problems. When you have 5 factions, when all of them are more or less equal, nobody gains an upper hand. When you have an alliance between the 2 largest factions, 2 of the largest factions, and they exercise that power, the balance gets distorted. So we disrupted the balance of the Inner Sphere with the Fourth Succession War. How do we even things out again? Well, you introduce an outside force. And some may ascribe a long, multi-year, far-ranging plan, but one of our first little adventure products was the Black Widow Squadron, or Black Widow Company, and told a little bit of a story about what they were about. And that provided the seeds for what the clans are, what the clans were. And by that time we had novels, we had all kinds of products. So we worked with our novel group, led by Mike Stackpole, to tell the story of the invasion of the clans, and so on and so forth. And that's the event, and it feeds on itself, and you keep telling the story, and the answer, the results, what happened. So that's how it came about.
Thank you very much. Bob, do you have any question?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I'd just like to say you guys obviously had an eye for writing talent, because you guys got William H. Keith, Mike Stackpole, and Blaine Lee Pardo to do most of that writing, and still some of the best sci-fi novels I've ever read. But I'd like to say, obviously, BattleTech is my favorite. I've been into the setting since I watched the cartoon series when I was about 7, and then I wanted to ask, just out of all the FAS's, properties and stuff like that, which one are you guys the most proud of?
Well, they're all our babies, so we're all proud of all of them. I mean, BattleTech and Shadowrun are obviously the most successful. And it's hard to pick favorites. What can I say? I've written the rules for a lot of them. Probably the the most satisfying, let's put it that way, uh, sessions we had was probably when we were working on Crimson Skies. At that point, Jordan and I were both at FASA Interactive. We didn't have to run the companies anymore. We had other people to do that. So we were free to just sit down and design the game, play the game. Jordan had the idea for what the game looked like and what the main story was. But then we had to come up with a game that made that work, and we had to come up with a game that was fast and easy to play and met all of our other design objectives. And because we didn't have anything else to do, we could concentrate just on doing that and sit down, play test in the morning, decide what worked, what didn't work, go back to the rules, go back to the design concepts in the afternoon, come back the next day, give it another play test, and go from there. And we were able to turn that game around, in a matter of a few weeks, because we were able to concentrate 100% of our time on it. Whereas every other game that we did, we were so busy running the company, commissioning the product, commissioning the art, deciding how it looked, making sure that what everybody wrote fit in with the story we wanted to tell. That you lose, you can't concentrate on things that you really want to do. One of the things we tell about our corporate histories is that the game, you start out a company, you end up doing everything because there's just two of us. And in the beginning, most of your time gets to be spent creating product. But as you get to become a bigger company, less and less of your time gets spent creating product. It's spent running the business, caring about dollars and cents. We were fortunate enough that we got to hit the reset button several times in our careers. After 10 years of spending all of our time at FASA, we shifted over to VWE, what became Virtual World Entertainment, and the cockpit simulators. In the beginning, we got to spend all of our time working on how the game was going to be and how the cockpit was going to work, until it got so big that we had other people running the business, and hit reset again, go to FASA Interactive. We're making software now. And again, the company got big very fast just because of MechWarrior money coming in and supporting us. That it gave us the time to spend just creating a game again, and Crimson Skies was the result. So, to answer your question, let's call Crimson Skies the most satisfying. But Star Trek, Doctor Who, BattleTech, Shadowrun, Earth Dawn, Renegade Legion. We have quite a few to choose from, and there are favorite aspects to all of them that that where one isn't better than the other. Some might be more successful in the marketplace, but they're all great games. We love them all.
It must be real satisfying to see multiple franchises you've created, like BattleTech, Shadowrun, Crimson Skies, outlive even the company itself, of just the idea and the community was strong enough that it kept going through even decades after anything, or you guys had any real involvement with it.
Well, that's, create the intellectual property that's popular, it will live forever. That's another cool story is, too many years ago now, but, certainly pre-COVID, Jordan and I were at Gen Con, each with our own booths, each doing our own thing. But we walked around the convention floor and we could point to, okay, there's the cockpits over there. There's BattleTech over the Shadowrun over there. There's BattleTech miniatures in that corner. And as you say, the popular properties, they live on. and you know, we'll pat ourselves on the back and say, "Yep, nope, we came up with that, and we're happy that people are still enjoying them." You know, that's very satisfying, no question about that.
Just thinking about what it took to be able to run a business during that time period, especially a gaming business, to see the growth of everything. I mean, you guys were right there. I mean, your company as well as other companies going to places like Gen Con. How long have you been going to Gen Con overall?
The first Gen Con I went to was 1981, when it was still at University of Wisconsin Parkside in Racine. And then, you know, went to every single one till the mid 90s, skipped a few, and then start in 2012 started going again when we, you know, due to Earth Dawn, brought the FASA name back into play. You know, and then since then have gone every year that they've had one.
Wow. Seriously, how are you able to get the tie-ins to a lot of popular properties to create games for? Doctor Who, you know, I mean, how did Star Trek happen?
Again, perfect timing. Back in the early 80s, big time licensing wasn't really a thing. So all we had to do was ask. And we could point to, and here's what we're doing, and here's our product, and it looks good. And we want to do the same treatment for Star Trek. We want to do the same treatment for Doctor Who. And Paramount and BBC said, okay, here's the license, here's the royalty rate, here's the approval process, which was sometimes a hassle, sometimes not. But as those companies began to understand what we were doing, they trusted us, and you know, we got away with things, and we're able to tell the stories we wanted to tell way much more than people would be allowed now. So the key was asking. And while I might not have the gift for gab, Jordan certainly did. And the result was the products you see.
Wow. Amazing. Just amazing. I played your Star Trek game and loved every moment of it.
Especially for kids who
wow.
grew up. I think it was Star Trek 6 came out.
Yeah.
Yep. And I played that game as a kid with some of the miniatures I just found at like a thrift store, I think. And it was so much fun living in, especially being a young Trekkie. It was just an amazing amount of fun. And it was, like you say, rules were easy enough for, you know, a young kid to understand. So I had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, no, you know, super realism was never our thing. We wanted to have a game that was fun to play. And of course, you know, Starship Combat or Star Trek Starship Combat Simulator, we certainly had ulterior motives in that design, you know, leading into VWE and multiplayer, you know, interactions and that kind of thing. But yeah, it was always, this is what we saw on TV. How can we replicate that? How can we have fun doing that? And, you know, those games are the result.
That's got to be gratifying, you know, when you hear many of the visual effects people when working on Star Trek, especially, you know, I think with season 3 for Picard, how coming up with Starship designs, and you hear how many of them were fans of FASA, where they would get certain ideas just from you guys and what you were able to do. I mean, that's got to be something.
Well, that's an effect that we never really thought about or never really realized until we have conversations like this. If we can inspire folks to do greater things, more power to them. We'll be glad to provide the inspiration. You know, we don't have the final word on any of this stuff. And if we can provide the seed, great. I know that a lot of the guys who worked for us with FASA Interactive, who worked on the animation sequences for that cartoon show, for the BattleTech cartoon show, have gone on to bigger and greater things. And if you know, it was always fun going to watch WETA film and waiting through the credits to see how many names I could recognize and that kind of thing. So I'm glad we could provide that inspiration and that start for so many other folks.
Wow. Martin?
Ooh. Um, okay, I was
Okay.
remembering of one of my other hobbies, and it's VR, and I remember that Meg Warrior was one of the first, if not the first, game that had a VR arcade made in British, I think. So, whoops. Oh, so were fast involved in that time period when they make that VR game?
Are you talking about the BattleTech centers and the virtual world centers?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, no, we will have to accept blame for that. Yes.
Oh, don't say it like that. I mean that is one of my. I think that they're still in functioning. So
That
it's in my bucket list.
um, when Jordan and I first met, we were at the Merchant Marine Academy. One of the facilities associated with the academy was called KORF, which is Computer Aided Research Design Facility or something like that. But basically, they had a ship's bridge and huge screens in a huge room where they could project any harbor that they had in their database on the screens, and they could run training exercises. And we said, we got tours of it. We never got to use it, but we got to see it. And we said, this would be really cool if we could make a game out of this. So Jordan and I have copious folders filled with notes on how to make a simulation game. We started out with one, because we were playing Traveler. We had a starship, and it had 5 positions on it: 2 gunners, navigator, captain, communications officer, that kind of thing. And the goal was to create a simulation where all the players played together against the system. Looking at computer graphics of the early 80s, they weren't really very good, compared to what we have now. And getting computers to talk to one another was sometimes a challenge. And getting the money to actually implement this was also a challenge. College graduate, college not quite so graduate, playing games in our free time. So we put those folders away, and some would say, well, FASA was created to fund, design and development of this computer game. Others would say FASA just happened, and we were good at it, and it grew. And when the cash flow was such that we could go back and revisit that multiplayer simulation game, we did. And by the late 80s, we had working prototypes for it, and we said, what kind of game should we make? What's popular? What can draw in customers? And we said, well, giant fighting walking robots, we got a pretty good fan base for that. Why don't we do that? It's easy, it's visually appealing. Thus, the cockpit simulators were born. 8 cockpits networked together, don't need to fight AIs because you're fighting other people. So all of our computing power could go into making, putting the best picture on the screens that we could. And opened the first center in Chicago in 1991, just in time for Desert Storm to steal our thunder. And struggled, but had a successful business there. A couple of years later, we got a guy named, first name Tim, last name Disney, wanted to invest in us, and that happened, and we opened dozen, maybe 20 centers, I guess, worldwide by the time we were through, and that was VWE. So yes, that's how that came to be. And the cockpits still survive. I know of a set of 10 that live in Kalamazoo, and there's another set of 10 or so that live in Texas, that they go to trade shows or go to conventions, go to gaming conventions, and they play both Battletech and our second game, Red Planet, in the cockpits that I helped build and design that still are running today, 25, almost 30 years later.
And
So yes, check that off your bucket list. It's well worth it.
I really want that video game center when it came out to our knowledge was a centerpiece conversation in my university days. I studied computer science, and we were there in the faculty square. Everybody with their gaming magazines in their hand. They did this in the UK. Oh man!
Again, it all goes back to designing things that you want to do. We really wanted to play that game, so ultimately it happened. And again, it was all a question, I think earlier in our conversation, it was, right time, right place, asking the right questions. For those cockpits, we ended up building our own graphics computer to do things that couldn't be done at the time. Now, we're carrying in our phones, magnitudes greater computing power than we would have at that time. So I can't imagine anybody succeeding in doing something like that today. Doesn't say it can't be done, but it seems it's a much harder path to go these days because expectations are so much higher.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think expectations are way higher nowadays. Wow. So, what was your most successful year with Bassett? What do you think, in your mind, is the one year to which you had everything just rolling? And
I mean, one of the high points of any of the release of Shadowrun, release of Earth Dawn was a big deal. The Gen Con where we had the wedding and announced the Fourth Succession War, that was a highlight. Those are the events that stand out, I guess. Anytime you work on a new game, that takes a year or more to come up with and to polish and to get right and to get everything in place to release it. Those are always milestone events. Dollar-wise, we kept slowly but surely increasing our sales. We never had magnitude jumps, but we certainly sold all of our game products steadily through the course of the 20 plus years that Facile Corporation was active. We had an unbelievable, successfully licensing program. BattleTech and Shadowrun were translated, to probably a couple dozen languages ultimately. And that was one of the reasons for the decision that that we made in 2001, when FASA Corporation, we decided to stop active publishing, because all the toil and work that we were putting into, and again, the industry was changing dramatically. That was the beginning of the huge shift between tabletop gaming and console and handheld gaming. So it was getting harder and harder to really do well.
Yeah.
And the distribution system was starting to fail. Distributors spoiled on Magic cards weren't pushing RPG and tabletop games anymore. And so we were breaking even on our publishing operations, but we were making all our profit in our licensing revenues. And because Jordan was in Seattle with Microsoft at that time and was just starting WizKids, and Mort was, both his kids were living in the Seattle area, so why should he stay in Chicago? So he moved to. This was an excuse to, or allowed him to, move to Seattle and see his grandkids and that kind of thing. And it just made sense, especially since the properties could live on, since we had a ready buyer in WizKids. And so that's how that worked. And sad, but I'm not going to complain. We've all done very well, shall we say. But so does that answer the question of what the highlight was? There's too many to really pick one.
I think that does. I mean, you guys, most people who start companies, as a general rule, a lot of those companies aren't successful. You guys just out of the box, just hit it. And
well, it took us a few years.
It did, but I mean, once you got going, you guys were really rolling. I mean, rolling right over the competition and just bowling over and winning things.
Well, thank you. Sometimes it didn't seem like that at the time.
Pope.
Yes, sir.
Got another question?
No, I mean, just hearing about the experience of like going from being, fans and gamers yourselves, and the transition between that and now running a company that does that. Like, was there a moment where you guys kind of realized, oh, we're actually on the publisher side of this now, rather than just a bunch of nerds doing this for fun?
Well, it is, Keith said that, we were instantly successful right out the gate. Well, that's not quite true. We didn't pay ourselves for the first year or two. We were both living at home. Any money we got was rolled back into the company. One of FASA's problem always has been it was tremendously undercapitalized, so all of our cash flow went to buying buying new product. And finally, Jordan said, well, I need to get some money because I have to buy a car. So we said, okay, let's see if we can figure out if we can start paying ourselves. So that took probably a year and a half, 2 years. And then thankfully it built. And, the licenses that we got, several of them did really well. So, the shotgun approach said a lot of them didn't do quite as well, but they weren't that major an investment. And then BattleTech happened, and then Shadowrun happened, and then VWE happened. So uh, it's, I guess the main turning point and answer to your question probably was when BattleTech started to take off, and um, Jordan's dad, Mort Weissman, joined the company to help us run the business side of things. And he had run publishing companies in his own right, as well as big nonprofits. So he brought a lot of experience to I wouldn't say higher finance, but higher wheeling and dealing that either Jordan or I had, or that we even had that much interest in. Again, we talked about earlier about the company growing to the point where we no longer had time to design games. We had too much other stuff to worry about. Bringing Mort in allowed us to go back to spend more time doing gaming stuff, creating the product, creating the intellectual properties. So, so that turning point, this is a real company, this is a real deal, happened, 82, 83. We started in 80. But we had the luxury of living at home and not having to pay rent right away, that kind of thing. So I think both of us had very forgiving sense of parents. Again, we weren't wasting our time, but it may not have looked like we were using it constructively. But they let us live the dream, and we're thankful that they did.
Oh, Martin, do you have a question?
Yes. And you may not answer this because we all know how thing works in. But I've seen that you have from since or up to 2020, you FASA, the newly created FASA games has expanded. Some of the games have created two more games. Well, three if we count 1879. But and I know it's come up with a full-fledged game is complex and long process. But since that you are in Tremendicon, are you planning to present some new product? You can say no. You can say I can. You can declare the question.
Before I forget who was part of this conversation, but yes, FASA Games is introducing new products, not here at Tremendicon, but I will be running games of Interceptor, because, knocking on wood and keeping my fingers crossed, we'll be able to introduce Leviathan at Gen Con this summer in 2 months. So Interceptor is a game of fighter combat. Leviathan is a game of capital ship combat. And we've got cool models and quick and dirty rules and an easy way to keep track of ship status and that sort of thing. So that's what's turning my hair gray right now, is trying to make sure that all of that gets done in time so that we can have something on the table at Gen Con in August. So yes, if I'm not at the gaming table here at Tremendicon, it means I'm back on my pad answering the latest questions from our manufacturer in China, and looking at the air freight shipment date deadline, and I was wondering what's going to get done and what's not going to make it. So, but no, nothing new here for Tremendicon, but we'll be here playing Interceptor. And I guess I got to throw in that I have donated a couple of products to the Food Harvest raffle here. One is a still in shrink wrap City Tech second edition. That's the first edition that had the plastic mechs in it. And also of course, mint copy of the House Carita house book. So those are raffle items here. So yes, I don't know if you guys are aware of our Discord channels, but every once in a while we'll talk about the good old days and some of the product I've got lying around that eventually will have to be disposed of, since I don't want to burden my daughters with boxes and boxes of old product that they have no idea what the value of them might be. So be on the lookout for that.
I'm sure Martin would love to help you sort that out sometime.
I've had lots of offers about that.
Oh yes. Whoops. Okay.
That's all right.
Yes, my heart skip a bit then. Well,
And the technology is reflecting that too, right?
yeah. Well, I'm sure Pope and I can send you our addresses in case you need to dispose of product.
Yeah, we have some safe storage and disposal sites that you might want to avail yourself of. It's usually called My Attic.
I understand. Believe me, as I'm not a hoarder, I'm a collector, as we say. So, and as I inherited the company archives, so I have some cool stuff.
I bet. Wow, company's archives.
I can tell from your wife's reaction that she has the same. Something like that.
Hey, at least it's all in boxes. At least it's not piled up floor to ceiling in the house.
Well,
Yes.
that's always the nightmare, isn't it? That either your wife or kids are going to sell off some of the stuff for what you said you paid for it.
It's, we auctioned some stuff off at the last Fredonia Con, which we hold online in February. And I was able to point to them to say, okay, this book, people are willing to pay $100, $250 for. It's worth substantially more than the cover price that's listed on it. It's substantially more than selling by the pound or selling by weight. So hopefully I think they're beginning to realize that, yes, it does have value, but realizing that value might be a little tricky. Making it, getting it, being aware of it, and making fans like you aware that it's available is the battle.
Wow. The not so easy life of the married collector. Oh boy, do I know about that.
I'm just glad I got room. That's all I say. I'm glad I still have room at my house.
Well, shout out to all the collectors' wives that put up with our obsessions.
Of course.
You spent how much
Yeah.
on what?
Sounds exactly like my wife.
Or this one is an absolute classic. You already have that one, and they say, but it's in another color.
Yeah, this
one's
is
in better
the first
condition.
edition. I have the later ones.
Oh wow! So, do we have any questions from our viewers? Are we still able to get those, or?
No, they have been quite silent.
Okay. Don't worry about it. worry about it. That's
Well, we have
fantastic.
one comment. Well, only one comment related to the world of tabletops and RPG, and it sadly is a reality. We are the franchise are bleeding fans
Yeah.
because decisions that well are
Yeah.
obviously are
Well,
not the best. Mm. And that's one from Shinatsky. Hello,
well,
Shinatsky, our good friend Shinatsky.
well, listen, I want to thank you, Ross, for joining us. If you want to stay for the rest of our nerd chat, you're more than welcome. But I really, really want to thank you for giving up your time and coming to Tremendicon, which everyone out there should do. And for just on behalf of me and my twin brother, I want to thank you for just hours of entertainment. You kept
Well, thank you, and it's been
us
my
out of trouble.
pleasure. And I think I will leave the pad here so that you guys can get rid of this technological difficulties that we've been having here.
I will take care of that.
Well, thank you for having me. And as you say, I'll be wandering around Tremendicon and running Interceptor, so I'll be here. There
And
you
I just
go.
want to thank you
very
for
much.
Thank
all
you
of
very much.
for all of the memories over the years.
Oh, I think Kid that's kind of lost connection. Kid,
Yes, you got me still.
Okay, cool.
oh, you're a big brain nipple at this moment.
I, I got, yeah. I'm used to doing a lot of conventions, so that whole spending years doing conventions and barely sleeping thing has had no real effect on me. Thank you so very much. Seriously, thank you. Um, Look, let me just say this, guys. I got to say that for an event like Tremendicon, it's definitely something that I think everyone should experience. I've been saying it every year they've had it. I'm going to continue to say it. I love the people that run it. I love the location, but I really love the content. And every year they try to change it up. And this year, with Ross and everyone else they have as guests here, if you are not making plans to be here, you should be here. Do yourself a favor, do your family a favor, and just come on down. Have a lot of fun with it. You know, um, I think my brother is at least going to show up for at least a little while. He'll try not to stalk you, Ross. I'm sure you have that problem every time you go out.
Well,
But
Sci-Fi Mombi is going to be there on Saturday.
really, well, hello,
Oh yeah,
Sci-Fi Mombi. Looking forward to seeing you officially here at Tremendicon. For those that aren't able to make it, we've got a lot of stuff coming up. A lot of stuff that we're going to be posting. There'll be a lot of postings on Instagram. There'll be postings on X and postings on really just the rest of social media. So, yeah, you know what? Let's go ahead and just do the other half of the show and get into, I think, what Sci Fi Mombi wants to talk about, which is all our big anniversaries coming up. Starting with, let's just go for all the classic stuff first. So,
yeah, yeah. Keith, maybe you want to check your audio settings because you're coming in with a lot of popping and cracklings. Maybe you if you can relocate
How about
Sounds like a bad connection.
can you hear me? Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, a little.
A little? Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
well, how about I just pop off?
Okay. Yes, this comment from Anima Confused said that we must make that a reality. We need you there
Yes,
forever.
yes, Anima. Thank you for, first of all, thank you for supporting us and for wanting to attend. Uh, uh, I'm sure everyone here at Minicon will look forward to having you when you're able to make it over here. So, look, let me just pop off for a moment and leave you in the capable hands of Martin and Pope, and I will be gone just for a moment.
Okay.
Okay. So Pope Keith has left the show in your hands.
Well, that's a mistake. But no, I mean, this is a really interesting year for a lot of sci-fi franchises. I mean, hell, like we were just talking about, BattleTech is turning 40 this year.
Wow. Oh my God. Now I feel really old.
Yeah, right. Which is incredible when you think about it. That, you know, like I said, a game that was not even guaranteed to take off beyond the guys who invented it ends up being this 40-year monolith in gaming that most people in the scene have at least heard of.
Oh, yes. It's a pity. Well, what can I say? Down there in Venezuela, this tabletop gaming culture is not as widely spread, and the main gameplay there tends to be Magic the Gathering. So I really knew very little of this. I discovered BattleTech in the in nine oh no 90, 1990, very low numbers in the 90s when MechWarrior 2 came out. However, I have been aware of the BattleTech game some years before, but I hadn't noticed. Then when MechWarrior came out, MechWarrior 2, I could tie the loose ends and say, "Oh, this is the same franchise." And then came out the show, and many years later, I could see the first wave of figurines. But yes, this is a company that has been around for a long time. They have survived a number of things that not many company could have survived. And oh man, I lost my
And the
thought
cool
there.
thing with BattleTech too is it's such a good idea and such a cool universe that it survived pretty much 15 years of inactivity from pretty much 2003 when Mech Assault came out until what 2015 when MechWarrior Online first started becoming a thing. Then, which you know we both have our opinions on that game, but it was the first sign of life that setting had in over a decade, and the fans came right back. So it wasn't like it was an old franchise that was just kind of losing relevance. Everybody wanted it. It was just nobody knew where to get it.
Well, and now we have MechWarrior 5.
Yep, we have MechWarrior 5. We have new tabletop stuff, new novels, all that, and it's kind of cool to see a resurgence of that idea because it was always a cool universe to play around in. And we kept going. We kept playing the games we had the whole time. I mean, I remember being in Afghanistan in 2009, and I took my copy of the MechWarrior RPG rulebook with me, and we were doing MechWarrior campaigns when we weren't on patrol.
On patrol. Wow.
Because you do have downtime. You have days or weeks where you're not on mission, so you're just kind of hanging around the base doing nothing. So we were playing
Yes.
MechWarrior. using
You
like,
better do
stuff
something.
like soda cans and stuff like that as models and all that kind of stuff.
Wow, man, and I had no idea, but when I went to the Wikipedia page in preparation for this, and man, the Doctor Who role player game, I didn't know it was from them.
Yeah, that one I didn't know was FASA. I should have realized that, but if it was a sci-fi franchise in the 80s, it was usually FASA that did the games for it.
I'm gonna have to finally try Crimson Skies because he is very, very proud of that one.
Crimson Skies is an interesting universe. I think you're going to have a lot of fun with it. They had a game for the original Xbox back in the day
Yes.
that was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. In fact, I may go buy a copy of that. I still have my original Xbox, so
Yeah, me too.
I may have to go find a used copy of that game.
Wow, Kid has surely taken his time. Well, that's a problem with conventions, and there is the connectivity is not the best. I remember. Oh, Anima, can you remember when the guys Gary and Keith were doing the convention, and uh, they left Anima and me to run the whole show for the first time. Man, that was awkward. But yes, the when the location, the building where they are, the Wi-Fi is not the best.
Yeah, trying to run a show
Oh,
like this with no Wi-Fi is interesting.
I'm triggering some memories, Anima? Oh my god, that was. Oh, I refuse to watch those videos.
I think we all have a couple of those videos from early on in our careers where we're just like, yeah, if I can just redo that at some point, then get rid of the old one.
Yeah. But I encourage the rest of the people go watch those videos because when in the segments where the guys were on, they interview a lot of people and show a lot of things. And I remember that Keith even did an on foot tour view of the convention. Oh man, it sucks. I only had gone to a one convention for 3 years in a row, but it's all with the same convention here in Mexico. And then the unspecified virus of unknown origin hit, and the convention died. Man, it's a pity. I saw so many cool things that there.
Yeah, that was one thing I miss about living near Boston is, we had PAX East that would come through there every year. We had Fan Expo. We had a whole bunch of other ones, all centered in Boston. So it was really cool to be able to just, take the train into the city and just go to the cons. But nowadays I live like 2 hours from DC, so it's a little bit different. But the convention scene, I do want to go to Gen Con one year because I'm always been huge into tabletop role gaming and wargaming, and I've never actually been able to go to that. So that's one of the things I want to do. But I'm also trying to save up money to go to one of the metal festivals in Europe. So
Oh, the
competing priorities.
Yeah, man, the metal festival.
Oh, I mean, if I can get to Vakken one year, I will absolutely die a happy man because that's been a dream of mine for decades at this point. Because Vakken is like the metal festival that everybody goes to.
I had
And Tree Rock, it does seem like a lot of the smaller conventions have kind of either discontinued or put a pause on it for a couple of years. I know E3's done now. Like they're not doing E3 anymore.
Yeah, yeah, that was coming for a long time.
I think
I
a lot
think
of those conventions that stopped doing it, the writing had been on the wall for years, and COVID was what finally killed it.
Mm. Well, and every company started to do their own shows. So
That was when I knew it was dying, is when PlayStation started doing their own show rather than going to E3. Nintendo did their own thing.
Mm.
And for a long time, it was literally just the Microsoft show doing all the Xbox and PC stuff. And then they were just kind of like, well, why are we paying to go to E3 when we can just do our own?
most certainly.
Because, they're Microsoft. I'm pretty sure they can afford it.
Well, they can afford game studios apparently because they
Yeah,
are.
well, I mean, that's the thing is Xbox has Microsoft's bank account behind it, so it can afford, entire countries worth of funding to throw at projects. And it seems to be they're pretty smart with it.
I don't know, because they bought a lot of video game studios only to close them.
Well, a lot of that they're
are,
buying the IPs.
yeah,
They're buying the studio to get their hands on the intellectual property, and then, a lot of game studios, especially ones that aren't all that popular, or that have kind of fallen off. Like the best example is EA and Dead Space. Although EA is famous for killing them. Like EA's had that pattern for decades of they'll buy a game studio at the height of their powers, and then let them do one game on their own, and it's a big hit, and then EA will start interfering with the game design process, and then things go downhill.
Hey, Snores the Pupus, how are you?
Snorty, everybody's favorite bears here. It's an interesting. There's a ton of interesting franchises that have anniversaries this year. Obviously, Keith mentioned Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. A whole bunch of them, especially from the early 90s, that were all, doing things in like 93, 94. I think that's when Sequest came out, if I'm not mistaken, about 93.
Let me see. It wasn't the 90s. Yes, I freaking love.
It's kind of disappointing they only got 3 seasons, because I think they were kind of just getting going with that story and figuring out what it was supposed to be. Because that's the first problem with any science fiction series is, you write the universe, but, you kind of spend the first season deciding what the show was going to be.
Okay. The movie got out on 93 and the show per se on 94.
Okay, so this will be its 30th anniversary.
Wow. Oh, you're not helping me with my feeling older.
Yeah, I remember watching that on TV as a kid, so I feel old now too.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Let's
and
see.
I remember
EA
Bullfrog Studios too. They were a good one.
Bullfrog.
Westwood Studios.
Westwood, man. Command and Conquer.
Rest in peace, you beautiful creature. I've always wanted them to do more with that with that setting, but it would be EA doing it directly, and we all know how that.
Yeah, no.
Let's just leave it where it is.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I'd love to see another BattleTech series or cartoon, but I also know what the industry is like now. It's just like, maybe they can just forget about that for another decade or so.
Oh, well, yeah, they can ruin everything. But BattleTech was very progressive at this time.
Yeah, it was. I mean, culturally, it was like you had the major cultural hubs of the world at the time, but it was also didn't rely on any kind of ethnicity or anything like that. Like one of the most famous characters is from Wolves on the Border, where you have a very black man who is playing a samurai and a great character. But there's a difference between like the progressiveness of the 80s and 90s and today. Like, that's one of the things I've always loved about a lot of the 80s sci-fi shows and things like that is they have a much more positive and aspirational aspect to them.
Positive, aspirational, and subtle. It's like we don't talk about this problem that you have because we solve that problem, and we show you the results of solving that problem without hitting you in the head with it.
And that's what a lot of the great ones did. Like the Next Generation with Star Trek was perfect with that. They would introduce moral dilemmas and quandaries, sometimes based on social issues we face now, but they would never be heavy-handed with it. They would just present you the argument and kind of let you decide how you feel about it.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey,
welcome back.
Does that sound better?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. Now that I'm back, let's see. Have you guys started talking about the anniversaries, or are we still finishing off?
No, we were waiting for you. We were exchanging opinions about gaming industry.
I kind of tried to transition a little bit with mentioning that this will be BattleTech's 40th anniversary.
Oh, you know what? Let's just begin with that. We are having a charity tournament tonight here at Tremendicon. I'm hearing there's still 5 spots left. So if you want a chance to enjoy a BattleTech game with Ross Babcock running it, there are still 5 spots left at Tremendicon here in Springfield, Missouri. It should be done, I think, later this evening. So if you're close enough to get to Springfield, Missouri, and you want an opportunity to do that, then I would go ahead and make plans. You can find everything at Tremendicon.com. You can also find Tremendicon through Facebook and Instagram. Lots of guests and lots of things to do. Now, 40th anniversaries. That's a very rare thing. But you know what else is celebrating 40 years? Buckaroo Banzai.
Yo-ho!
Buckaroo Banzai is celebrating 40 years, which is amazing. First of all, yes, it makes me feel old because I remember when the film came out.
Me too.
It here in the States, Buckaroo Banzai came out the same weekend as Purple Rain. So that explains part of the reason why the film didn't do as well as it should have.
Yeah, when you're up against Prince in the mid 80s, that's never going to be a winning fight for you.
Well, when your film is more of an homage to pulp adventure novels and characters like Doc Savage and the Shadow and a lot of that stuff, it's hard to compete, especially in the 80s. But it's a solid movie. It's a fun movie, I think. I'm of two minds, though. On the one hand, I would love to see more Buckaroo Banzai, but I'm not sure how I would feel about giving away the entertainment is nowadays. I'm not sure how I would feel if casting someone else to be Buckaroo, let alone the Hong Kong Cavaliers.
Yeah.
So
I just can't. We're saying that with BattleTech as well. I'd love to. I mean, obviously the cartoon got me into the franchise, so I'd love to see like a remake or another series set in that universe because I think it would do well. But maybe not with the modern Hollywood the way it is.
Yeah, I think something could be done, but I'm a little skittish, you know. I can't really see any the things that I liked about Buckaroo Banzai are some of the things that I think would be changed. And that's really what's got me kind of fearful.
Well, that's really the crux of any kind of remake or reboot is how do you modernize a series like that or a movie and modernize it in ways that won't change what the thing itself is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Or if you do
difficult.
change it for the better. Like the back constantly of the remake actually being in some ways better than the original.
It helps when you have a good idea, a solid idea to basically build everything on. And that's my big problem. A lot of people that try to do stuff like remaking or rebooting something treat the original source material as if it's got the cooties or something. I mean, they
Yeah.
almost go out of their way to not try to adapt it very well. With Battlestar, what you had was an idea that was solid and a creator that was willing to allow others to come in and play in that sandbox. And I know it's kind of controversial to say, but things have been revealed that kind of hint that some of the things in that reboot had actually been ideas from a previous attempt to turn it into a series, a continued series. There had actually been, before David Icke got there had actually been another group of people that had been trying to turn Battlestar into something, more modernized version, although that version was meant to be a continuation of the series and bring in new characters. And that was.
And I hope that we're planning to forfeit Galactica 1980. Oh my God.
Yeah, no, this was not Galactica 1980. In fact,
the less said about that series, the better.
Yeah, that's true. The thing is that it was a project from Bryan Singer, and he was really sold on trying to do this. And the company that had been hired to handle the visual effects some years back released a lot of their sketches and plans. And some of the things that David Icke's version of Battlestar Galactica, they used some of that material. The look of the Cylons and stuff is one of those things. So when you see the Cylons in the newer version of Galactica, that's actually left over from the Bryan Singer version. His version was gonna try to do some of the things that you saw in the David Icke version, but was also going to try to incorporate a lot of the original material that Glenn A. Larson had in the original series and try to bring back as many of the original performers as would want to be a part of it. I was always excited about that.
Read that comment from Monkey Jeep.
Thank you, Monkey Jeebus. And you know what? That might be true. But to get back to Buckaroo Banzai, for those that don't know, there is a brand new, well, not brand new, but there is a book out from the creator of Buckaroo Banzai. And it's the world. Basically, it's what we were promised at the end of the movie. It's essentially Buckaroo Banzai versus the World Crime League, and it's that story and those characters. And For those that have actually read the novelization and not just watched the movie, you also are made aware that there are more members of the Hong Kong Cavaliers that we weren't allowed to see because they were off on another mission during the events of the film. So there are a lot more characters, and a lot more adventures to be had. Buckaroo has crossed over into comics. I know Marvel was the company that did the adaptation of the film, and I think they had a couple of new comics. And I know that other companies had come in to do stuff, but there's still a lot of interest in Buckaroo Banzai, and I would hope that someone could do something to take advantage of that. If you can create a brand new game that utilizes all of the original ideas from, say, RoboCop, and get Peter Weller involved, there's got to be something that we can do with Buckaroo Banzai. That's all I got to say.
Oh yeah, I mean, it seems inevitable that somebody's going to try to revive that because, like you said, there's a ton of fans out there that are waiting for new stuff, and a whole new generation that's barely ever heard of it. And it's a good, as long as the concept's good, I think it's viable. But again, you need the right people there.
Yeah. So
You're right.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you would need the right director. If I were to produce such a movie, I would do a shot by shot remake with more budget, but with the same script.
So you'd
That-
actually try to just
Yeah,
remake the entire film?
Yes, because if you make the entire film exactly the way it was, but with new actors, because time and tide doesn't wait for any man, that gives you the opportunity to then start making sequels with these new actors, and it wouldn't be so shocking to the audience. But you need
Okay.
to get a director or a showrunner, but somebody who really loves and appreciates the IP,
The property.
yeah, the property for what it was and for the way it was.
Yes. I agree. But that's the thing. Who would you get? What creative director would you put in charge?
Well, we could always give a first directorial opportunity to someone, maybe someone like Henry Cavill.
Well, if you can
Henry
find
Cavill
someone
would be
who's
awesome.
If you can find someone who's as dedicated to Buckaroo Banzai as Henry Cavill is to 40K, that would be an amazing choice.
True.
Oh,
very true.
The man Peter Weller himself.
Hey, I mean, he's still around, and like you said with RoboCop, he's willing to go back to some of his old work. So, but that in addition to Buckaroo Banzai, I'd like to see a lot of the old school like pulp science fiction come back, like Buck Rogers or Flash Gordon or something like that. See that get a little bit of a
so you want Dale Arden to put Flash Gordon in his place?
I wouldn't go that far, but I would make an attempt to try to do a full-on version of Flash Gordon. Look, let me just say this. Having lived through the 80s, enjoyed everything. I think the movie is fun. But if you really want to know my honest opinion,
always,
while the film with Sam Jones is fun, it's not the best adaptation of Flash Gordon.
No, it's not.
What you need really is a visual director, but not just any kind of visual director. You want someone that you could tell them, hey, this is your opportunity to do something as expansive and as big as Star Wars with a property that directly almost inspired the whole thing. Because that's really how George Lucas came up with the idea, was he wasn't allowed to make a Flash Gordon movie.
Yeah.
So
And I will agree with Tree Rock on that one. No woman will ever top Aaron Gray for a female lead. That's set in stone.
Aaron Gray is an incredible woman. That's whoo, yeah. But if you're gonna make any of those heroes, I think you really do need to understand. I think what really was the original comic strip trying to get at. You know what I mean? You can't just attempt to do something and then do sort of like a pseudo parody of it, which is what the 1980 film wasn't so much a parody, but it didn't really fully, it couldn't do all the things that we could do now, technologically wise, with that, you know. And again, I think part of the problem is that the creator, Alex Raymond, made those comic strips so incredible. You have to understand that if you've never, well, anybody that's ever seen the movie Flash Gordon, you have seen parts of the comic strip because that's in the opening credits. That's where all those drawings come from. That's from the original comic strip. And so you would really be hard pressed not to follow Peter Jackson's textbook for using New Zealand to film a lot of the different areas. You know, that would give you your best look, and just make that movie and have that, you know, have a lot of New Zealand stand in for parts of Mongo, and create something that is truly unique. But we are getting drawn way, way off here. So
Yes.
let's try to bring ourselves back in.
Let's go back to Buckaroo.
Anyway, Buckaroo Banzai 40th anniversary, BattleTech 40th anniversary. But you know what? Nothing says it's been a long time like saying it's going to be your 60th. And this year, 2 properties will be celebrating 60 years. One is Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, the television series, which I loved watching when I was younger.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't around when the show hit the air. I hadn't been born yet, but I mean, I watched the reruns, and I got to tell you, you know, I mean, I was into that show.
And for a show made in '64, the special effects were actually very good.
Oh, wow. Yes. And go ahead.
Yes, in lieu of what Paul was saying, I'm gonna rate it. I know it's a cliche at this point, but my God, the mini sub.
Yeah, the flying sub was everybody's favorite.
Yes.
Yeah, if there's one piece of technology that, if I had the opportunity just to get behind the wheel of, it would be the flying sub, because it's so much fun. And it looks like it could actually be something that exists, even though it's fiction. But I mean, you could not have told 5-year-old me that.
Yeah. Who cares the fact that if you get into the water at that speed, you will die? Who cares about that? It looks cool.
Tree Rock Creation says at Keith, I get what you're saying. This is what irritates me about Hollywood. It seems like no one knows how to use special effects correctly, nor do writers know who to write. You're right. Right now, you have a lot of people that are seemingly acting like they've never made anything before. And chances are they probably haven't, but they're spending money like drunken sailors. And while a lot of us may be able to sit off to the side and laugh about it sometimes, the collective feeling is it's doing damage to really the entire concept of making genre entertainment. Every time somebody comes out and spends way too much money to make a piece of genre entertainment, it really does, after a while, does damage to the idea of creating genre anything in terms of film and television. You know, that's part of my whole thing with, like with my other twin brother, Robert Meyer Burnett, when I, rail against Kurtzman. There are consequences to having something that is not the best of what could be put out there. And I think in the end, a lot of good stuff is going to be sacrificed, or nobody's ever really going to want to do it because, the thought will be from studios and stuff that, oh, we don't want to waste any money on that. And it's dumb. It's dumb to just not think things through. A lot of these films, a lot of these Marvel films especially, don't need to be as expensive as they are yet. And you look at something like Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, and you can tell they were really trying to, it was expensive to a point. It helps having a movie that had been made 2 years prior. So you still had all the sets and a majority of the costumes, so they were able to really cut back on spending a lot of money in its first season by having a lot of standing sets,
And in
I
a lot of
just-
ways, that's probably what got the show greenlit. Is they were able to sell to the executives that we can do this for a reasonable budget because of the movie.
Mhm.
We already have fans that will watch the show, and we already have a lot of the props and things like that already in existence.
Yep.
And
I just
on the opposite of that, you have Rings of Power, which they spent $750 million on.
Jeez, how do you do that?
on armor made of foam.
Yeah.
I'm just, how do you get up every morning and go to work on something like that, knowing that for a fact that what you're working on pales in comparison to what Peter Jackson and his people put out on every level? You can't seriously think that there's anybody truly connected with that production that actually thinks that they're working on something that's not only good, but is as good as what Peter Jackson and his people put together. That's self-delusion of the highest order.
Yeah.
Again, I know that there are probably people out there that enjoy that show, and that's fine. I'm not making fun of you or making light of you. I'm just making fun of the people that actually make the show.
We're making fun of the idiots that make the decisions on that absolute trash fire.
How do you spend that kind of money and keep a straight face? How do you? Oh, wow.
And meanwhile, you have shows like Star Trek that started off with a shoestring budget,
Yeah,
and managed to make a legend.
Oh, jeez. Anyway, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. 4 seasons, great cast. They did a lot with what they had. Even going so far as to have an episode that was a remake of the movie. And they did it in a 1-hour episode. and I gotta hand it to them. You know, again, they kept 5-year-old me very, very entertained. And had things gone a different way, I probably would have ended up joining the Navy because of that show. Come on, I mean, that's the best naval recruiting tool that I could think of. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, oh, serving on a sub's gonna be like that? Sign me up.
Yeah,
if
it's
you're
not like
17 years
that
old when
at
the
all.
movie comes out or whatever, I'd be looking at that going, yeah, where do I sign? Get me on there.
Yeah, because giant octopus or octopi, aliens from other universes, time travelers, and you have a flying mini sub. What's not to like?
Dude, that's the precursor of the Defiant.
You're not wrong.
Oh,
And, speaking of things that came out of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, its spiritual successor also has an anniversary this year, Sequest.
oh yes, it does. Thank you for reminding me.
30.
Sequest does it. Yes, yes. Oh. Steven Spielberg very, very happy, but I think he knew what he was doing when he made Sequest.
Unfortunately, the show, I don't think they ever really figured out what to do with it. It was a great show and a great cast, and I just don't think the writers ever figured out what that show was supposed to be.
Part of it was the fact that Rockne S. O'Bannon was the guy behind it. He was the one that Spielberg hired to write the pilot. And when it came time for the producers to move forward on the series, Rockne S. O'Bannon was not a part of what they were doing beyond the pilot. Which to this day, I still think that's kind of not cool. You know, I mean, why would you hire someone to create your pilot and you not continue their employment through at least the first season? You know, it's really 3 different shows in one. You know,
yeah, each season kind of feels like its own idea for a series that never quite finished the thought.
Well, there's a reason for that. The first season everything was filmed in California. And so the reason why they destroyed, spoilers, the reason why at the end of the first season, why they destroyed the Sequest was because they needed to move the entire production to Florida to film at the Universal Studios there. That's the reason why you have all those nice ocean shots in season 2. Water, beaches, all that stuff. That was all filmed in Florida. They had to move the entire production and move the sets. And they decided to use that as a time to tighten up or change certain things, get rid of certain characters like the Doctor, and bring in some new characters. I think they got rid of like 3 characters. And then for season 2, they hired like 4 brand new actors and gave a slight redesign to the ship. Bridger was allowed to grow a beard. And
I always thought he was a great choice as a captain, though. Roy Scheider.
Oh God, yes, but from what I heard, he didn't really like filming the show. You know, which is sad because I thought he was fantastic as Nathan Bridger. I just never thought they invested too much in his story. You know, they kind of gave hints.
To be honest, and as much as I love the actor and the character, being that he is the inventor of the sub, I don't know. I prefer the militaristic approach of the captain played by Michael Ironside.
Oh yes, love Michael Ironside.
He's another one who's great in everything he does.
Yes. Look, I love the entirety of the show. Okay, don't get me wrong. But if I had to pick my favorite season, I would still pick, and this is going to sound bad, I'd still pick the first season. Here's why. With the first season of the show, you had uh, Stephanie Beacham as the doctor. You had, of course, Nathan Bridger. You had the captain, who was kind of unsure of himself, which was always kind of weird to me. I liked the characters, the way the crew was in the first season. Not anything against any of the other actors and characters from all the seasons after, but I always thought that the first season, it felt kind of new in a way that Enterprise was kind of new, but without the baggage of being something that is really a continuation of something that is known, outside of the fact that it it was Sequest was modern day Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, but at the time when that show hit the air,
Well,
there was a lot of people watching and they didn't know that. They didn't know. There was if people had been bigger fans of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, I don't think Sequest would have taken off, because they borrowed a lot of stuff from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. You have your admiral, who is the inventor of the sub, who also runs his own institute, who's teamed up with the captain, who actually is either someone that has a past association with or is friends with. You start to see the connections. I mean, they borrowed a lot of stuff from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Well, that was
and they got away with it.
That was always what I thought of Sequest was, you can see the inspirations for the idea on its sleeve. I mean, it's basically Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea meets Star Trek.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And I loved it for that, because I was a huge Trekkie, and Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea was on in reruns on Sci-Fi. So it's like young me was all on board.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Martin.
Yeah, we need to move on with the shows.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Wrap it up by just saying, look, both shows are very good. The other show that's celebrating 60 is Johnny Quest.
One of your favorites.
Oh, geez, how can you not love Johnny Quest? I'm just saying. How can you not love Johnny Quest? And again, let me just state for the record, I get why they did the Real Adventures of Johnny Quest, but let me just officially say that's trash. That is a trash version of Johnny Quest. I like the original. It had more heart and more mystery, and it really was the coolest animated cartoon, Saturday morning animated cartoon I'd ever seen in my life. Every boy wanted to be Johnny, and a show that has lasted as long as it has, to have been one of the main inspirations for the Venture Brothers.
Oh yeah, to the point where they reuse some of the art and stuff too.
Oh geez, I mean, oh yeah, Johnny Quest, nothing like it. I'm glad that none of the attempts to turn it into live action ever really took off, because some of the people that they had talked about making that stuff weren't people that I had a lot of trust in. If you're going to make Johnny Quest, you better be very familiar with James Bond movies, starting with Dr. No and ending with From Russia with Love. You cannot go beyond From Russia with Love. Can't do it. That's not the same time period.
That was an era too where Hanna-Barbera was just on fire. Everything they came out with turned into a classic.
Well, that's the thing. Alex Toth created it, right? Here's a little something. Alex Toth was the creator who was commissioned by Hanna-Barbera to create this show. which character was the only character that Alex Toth hated with a passion?
That I don't know.
Take a guess.
I'm gonna guess Race.
Nope.
No?
Martin,
Nope.
you're not gonna guess?
Nope.
Well, let me tell you, the character was Bandit.
Really?
What?
Yeah,
The
because he
dog?
didn't. Yeah, he didn't create the dog. His original concept for Johnny Quest was all the characters that you saw. Hanna-Barbera created the dog. They added the dog, and he always hated that. He always said, my art style, because he was an illustrator and a comic book guy. He designed all those characters. Bandit doesn't match.
Yeah, you're right. Now that I think about it, he doesn't fit art style wise with the rest.
That's right. That's because he was never meant to be a part of it. And Alex Toth hated that. He hated that dog.
Bandit.
No. Trust me, I love Bandit. I grew up watching the show, but I'm just saying that was the truth of the matter, is that Alex Toth was asked to create something and Hanna-Barbera tweaked it. And he didn't like it.
And I'm guessing a lot of that had to do with, their experience and success of Scooby-Doo, of like, oh, well, the executive.
Actually, Scooby-Doo hadn't been invented yet.
One in the show.
Scooby-Doo had not been invented yet.
Really?
Ruby Spears were the two gentlemen who invented Scooby-Doo, and that's the cartoon Scooby-Doo came out in 1969.
Okay, I thought Scooby-Doo was first. Okay.
No. Scooby-Doo is actually part of a long line of shows that were actually based on other popular live action shows. Okay. The Flintstones was taken from the Honeymooners.
Yep.
Okay. Well, Scooby-Doo is taken from a show that not a lot of people today remember, but it was a hit show called Dobie Gillis.
Don't know it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
If you Google it and you look at the cast, you'll see. The first season of Dobie Gillis. Dobie, the lead character, he's a teenage boy who is basically just trying to find the woman of his dreams, the girl, the teenage girl that he can just, And the girl he was hot for was played by actress Tuesday Weld. And she is the model for Daphne. Okay. Oh man, there's Dobie's best friend is a hipster kid with a soul patch.
Okay. So
And
that's not
he's the inspiration for Shaggy. And there is a young woman. Oh man, what is her name? She's really smart. And what you find out later is she and Dobie will always argue. And what you find out later is that she's actually in love with Dobie. But Dobie's in love with this other girl. And so this young lady is actually the inspiration for Velma.
Yeah, so I mean, when you look at it, like a lot of, like you say, a lot of stuff is just repurposed ideas with it, and that seems like it's a pretty one-to-one copy, just in cartoon form.
Yeah, well, they Hanna-Barbera really did that a lot. Whether it's actual cartoons or certain characters, like Top Cat, he speaks just like Phil Silvers, who is a comedian, actor who had his own TV show. So if you watched a Phil Silvers movie and then watch Top Cat, you'd go, well, they're speaking just the same. Well, yeah. That's it. Hanna-Barbera did that a lot. But Maynard G. Krebs is Dobie's best friend, played by the actor that would eventually go get himself stranded on an island, Bob Denver.
Oh, shit. Bob Denver, really?
Bob Denver is the actual model for Shaggy.
That I can see.
And Dwayne Hickman played Dobie. And you had Tuesday Weld, as I said, played Thyla. Warren Beatty actually got his big break on that show.
Okay.
And Zelda Gilroy is the name of the young lady who was the model for now I can't remember the final member of the Mystery Machines quartet.
Welcome to my life.
Yeah, I know. I've gotten old. But yeah, if you look up Dobie Gillis and you look up Scooby Doo, you will see all of that, and you will see all these characters. And Velma, I'm sorry, Zelda was the inspiration for Velma. Zelda, Velma. There you go.
Oh, wow. Okay, so they weren't even trying to hide it.
No.
And if I remember right, didn't the Scooby Doo have an episode where they crossed over with Gilligan's Island?
If they did, that was kind of funny, considering that Casey Kasem was the actual voice for Shaggy. So getting Bob Denver on the show was kind of very surreal.
Yeah, to voice Gilligan.
Yeah.
While staring at a cartoon made to look like him.
Well, I mean, Mark Hamill, his big early break was doing a Saturday morning animated series. He was the voice. He voiced one of the characters in the Genie animated series that ran for, I think, one season.
Okay, I remember seeing that in reruns. I didn't realize that Mark Hamill was involved with it.
Mark Hamill is the lead voice. They decided, instead of having the characters in the military like in the original Genie live action series, they made them teenagers. And so they took Larry Hagman's character and regressed him as a teenager. Mark Hamill played the voice. Mark Hamill talked about that in an interview because he did a made-for-TV movie in the 70s where he had to play opposite Larry Hagman. He brought that up to him one day between shooting. It's like, I played you in the animated version of the show. And he said Larry Hagman got a good laugh out of that. He said, "Did you get paid?"
Oh.
Yeah. But the actress who they had voicing Jeannie was a complete sound alike to the original actress, Barbara Eden. That's the reason why they were able to do the show. Because a lot of people thought it was Barbara Eden as the voice of Jeannie.
Well, I mean, I saw something similar with the Star Trek animated series where a lot of the voice actors sounded almost exactly like the real cast.
Actually, it was the real cast. That's part of the reason why it was so expensive.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
Yep.
Everybody got rehired except Walter Koenig.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so Leonard Nimoy found out and threatened not to participate unless they at least allowed Walter to participate. So every member of the original cast participated in the show, but Walter Koenig did not voice Chekhov on it.
Huh.
In fact, Chekhov's not even there on the series. But he did write an episode that a lot of people liked. In fact, he wrote one of the best episodes of the animated series. Walter Koenig wrote the episode called The Infinite Vulcan.
Yeah, I remember the episode.
No, I think it's The Infinite Vulcan. I think he may have also wrote Yesteryear, but I'm thinking not. I'll have to look that up. It's been a while. But I mean, he wrote an episode that a lot of people ended up liking. And that was during the period where Walter Koenig was just out there just hustling and busting and doing all sorts of TV shows. He even made a cameo appearance, a guest appearance in an episode of Star Lost which was a huge series, I think
Ooh, the
originally out of
Starless
Canada. Yeah.
Yep.
with Kir Duela. Dulia.
Yep.
Kir Dulia.
Yep. Fresh out of 2001. Now, that takes care of that. That leaves us with only 2 more shows to honor that have both of whom are celebrating 25 years. The first one is one from the Henson Company, and that's Farscape.
One of my all-time favorite.
Oh,
type shows.
geez. Is there anybody around who is not a fan of Farscape? I am
Especially as a
hard
sci-fi, I
pressed.
don't think I've ever seen anyone that does not love that show.
Oh man, if you just sat down and watched the show, you cannot not love this show. It's a fun show, and it's from the Henson Company. And the story behind how that show got made and what it was like to work on that show, and what the actors all thought. In Australia where they were making it, it was a kids show,
Yeah.
and being so far away from the United States, at the height of its popularity, the cast had no idea how fans really saw the show. They were just making a show. And this one also created by Rockne S. O'Bannon, who had created the previously mentioned Sequest.
Yep.
And love the show. Just so much fun. Every episode. People who have been following me for a while know how much I love Babylon 5. Babylon 5 really set the stage for advancing science fiction on television, allowing Americans to become very familiar with the British way of telling science fiction stories and
Also
storytelling.
celebrating an anniversary this year. It'll be 30.
Yep. Well, then we will talk about that too. To me, I love all science fiction shows, especially Star Trek being at the top of the list. But I found that Babylon 5's episode, they have a episode that has to deal with that. Spoilers. They had a really unique way of doing that. And for me, it would have been the best episode ever written using time travel. Except for an episode from Farscape that beat it.
Yep.
Farscape has an episode where they did something that even Babylon 5 didn't think of. And it had a very different way of using time travel that I don't think even Doctor Who thought of. That is still one of the best episodes ever. And I think it's from the 2nd season of the show. And the plot is actually really simple. But once you get to the end, you realize what you've actually been watching. What you think is going on is actually the exact opposite, which was kind of funky about that entire episode, where the Moya crew is stuck in this weird cloud type thing. And they have to break through by taking a shuttle down to a planet that mysteriously has appeared within all of this that they can get to. And they land on the planet. It's got everything they could want, everything they could need. But they begin to realize that this planet will soon be shut off again from really the rest of the universe. So they have to jump on the shuttle and leave to get back to Moya. Turns out Aaron misses the shuttle. So they have to leave her. And by the time they come back, I think it's like it's
it was like
every
40
time.
years or something like that.
I thought it was 20 years.
Could be 20.
I thought it was 20 years every single time. So they land on the planet. It's been 20 years. She's aged 20 years. And it wasn't like the planet had done anything to it. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's the way this planet is. And oh man, I want to tell you the rest of it. I know you know it, but I mean, I want to say the rest of it. I'm gonna tell you, if you're the least bit curious about this show, check it out. Do yourself a favor and watch this episode, because when you get to the end, it's gonna throw you. Oh.
And both series did things with time travel, and by then it was pretty much understood, especially because Star Trek had done it so extensively, of time travel is the third rail of science fiction writing. You just don't do it.
Yeah, you just don't do it. But if you're going to do it, find a very unique way of doing it, and make sure it's something that is really necessary for the story that you're telling. And in both cases, for both Farscape and Babylon 5, it was. It was, especially the way Babylon 5 used it. I still give them props.
Part of the whole timeline of the show.
Yes. It's not just a one-off thing. It's something that has an effect. And oh, yes. Look, Babylon 5, again, if you've never sat down to watch this and you want to watch something that is, in my opinion, worth your time, Babylon 5 and Farscape both are it. They are it. But Babylon 5 has a lot more going for it, because there's a lot of material that comes with it. And again, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Star Wars and Star Trek have a lot of material. They have a lot of books and they have a lot of comics. It was very difficult for them to get all that stuff to jibe with the show, Star Trek, and with the movies. Babylon 5 did it. They found a way of incorporating all of the books, all of the novels, in with the plot of the show. And what I mean is, the first few novels that they had were really just adaptations of episodes. But what you don't realize until you read it is that it's actually based on the full original script that J. Michael Straczynski had. The reason why he thought it was important to write out the entire original script and not the version that was just filmed, which was usually you cut stuff out, was because he wanted to allow you to be introduced to characters and concepts that could actually help you understand the mystery of Babylon 5. Look, you can watch the show. You can watch every episode and enjoy it. But for a deeper dive into the all of Babylon 5, read the books along with watching the show. Read the comics also, because it all fits as part of the timeline of the show. You'll meet characters and be introduced to concepts long before you'll even see them on the show in the books. And for those that have seen the show, but you've never read the books, check out the book that talks about Sinclair right after the events at the end of season 1 and before season 2. If you really want to know what happened to Sinclair, read the book. There's a book connecting the two that gives all those details, and it actually sets up many of the plot points coming in season 3 of the show.
And I always thought that was how they did that, where, you know, if you just wanted to enjoy the show for what it is, then that's fine. But if you really fall in love with the universe and want to know more, well, the books are right there.
Yeah,
you want to know more.
Good one.
I'm sorry, I can't help it.
No.
It's contractual. It's contractually obligated. Every time a Starship Troopers reference is possible, you must make it.
You know, I have to say that I highly recommend both Babylon 5 and Farscape. They're two very different shows. Babylon 5 because, you know, J. Michael Straczynski took his shot. He wanted to go big, and he went big. and I think he did it. Great, great cast, incredible crew. The way they put that show together and using certain concepts to save money, where you use Broadway stage techniques to create the sets of the show so that you can move. The walls were all movable. No matter what scene you were talking about, where in the station, the walls were all movable so you can move them around to create different things. By taking away, adding furniture here and some paintings there, you could go from being an office to somebody's quarters and vice versa. I mean, it was an incredible way to do that entire show and probably help them keep costs down. Farscape was just fun. Great alien creatures, alien landscapes, some of the best makeup out there. Both shows worth your time if you've never seen them.
And Farscape, the cast just sells that show.
Oh God, do they? Oh
Claudia
man,
Black.
That show would have
It's
been
the only thing I have to say. Claudia Black.
Yeah, Claudia Black in her youngest and hottest that she ever was, and a great actress. And her chemistry with Ben Browder was phenomenal.
Oh well, and it's hard that when you see them on Stargate SG-1, it's somewhat there, but they are such consummate actors that you actually buy them as their new characters, even though it's the same people.
Yeah, and Farscape had only been over for what, a year or two before they started on SG-1?
Yeah. Oh man, and Claudia Black, she has been very busy. She's done a lot of video games. She's voiced several characters in the God of War series.
Yep.
And I think she had an ongoing. That's what I was going to say. She had an ongoing character voice in Uncharted. I just recently got through the animated Netflix series Blood of Zeus, of which she's one of the long list of actors that are a part of that.
Somewhere in the middle there, she was in Pitch Black.
Oh,
yep.
We have this statement here.
Tree Rock Creation says, "I don't want anyone to remake B5. Remaster, fine. Remake, hell no." I understand, but my thing is, if it's J. Michael Straczynski that's the one that's putting it together, just like with Buffy, if it's the original creator, fine. They want to do it, fine. And
as far as I can tell, he is still associated with the remake project.
Yeah.
At least as far as I've heard. So
yes.
That bodes well.
It's just that it's in limbo because of everything going on with Warner Brothers right now.
Yeah, that's a whole dumpster fire of its own.
Yeah. Hey, Warner Brothers, I will admit, is bad, but it's not Disney bad. So.
And it's not Paramount bad, which
geez,
things are bad when they're trying to sell off Skydance Pictures, which means they're selling Star Trek.
Yeah.
When you're selling your flagship franchise, you're in big trouble.
Big trouble. Finally, we have one more show that is celebrating 25 years. I definitely feel old saying this, but from the Buffyverse, the world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, comes Angel, celebrating 25 years. And 20 years since it went off the air. So I love this show. In fact, out of both shows, I love Angel more. I think it's a better series. I got nothing against Buffy, but Angel is a better series. For one thing, at the time when Angel came out, I was a lot closer to how they had structured the series, with Buffy being about a teenage girl. When it came time to make Angel, the prevailing thought in the writer's room is that it's more or less about being in your 20s and all the things you do after high school. Even though Angel is well past his 20s. but that was the prevailing thought, you know. And I just think that you had a show that almost every season, in my opinion, changed, because Angel as a television series in season 1 is different from the series as it appeared in season 2. To me, the hotel is one of the best sets ever for any television series. But if I was always committed to that hotel that they had.
Yeah, Joss
But
Whedon has always known what he's doing with set design too. I mean,
oh,
between Angel, Buffy, my personal favorite, Firefly,
oh,
like he has just known how to put together a set for, like, you know, most of the, you know, the home base essentially of the cast
yes.
is just
But
amazing every time.
you have to admit, though, taking the gamble to leave the hotel and in the 5th season completely recreate, almost redo the entire series for season 5, which is my favorite season of the show, and
Yeah,
have it be
that took a lot of courage to leave a set as established as that and then completely uproot it.
yeah, and create the Wolfram and Hart set. Oh, the whole corporate thing. Uh, at first, I'm thinking, oh, this isn't going to work, until you find out that, you know, Angel has his office, and on the office connects to his bedroom. It's they have a mystical glass, so he can actually stand there and look outside during the daytime.
Yep.
And then he has that elevator that runs all the way down to the garage, where it's all of these cars that he has. It's
And I
like,
know behind the scenes too, there had to be people looking at Joss Whedon going, "What are you, insane?"
after the whole bowling alley scene in season 4, where you see, well, really, when Angel and his son start beating the blank out of people, that's a whole Batman and Robin vibe there.
Yeah.
You know, so there was always a hint of kind of like, you know, David Boreanaz's Batman running through Angel. And if you want to look at it like that, you know, season 1 being the Batman, season 3 meeting his Robin, and season 5, you know, just destroying everything. Wow. There's nothing like Angel. It's still, in my opinion, one of the best written shows of its type. Everybody in the cast is amazing. I I still can't believe some of the cast members are gone. The actor that played Lorne passed away.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
heard
and
that.
the one who played Doyle too.
Yes. Yeah. I thought Doyle was fun. You know, the entire show just has its own lingo, and that's the thing. The ability to be able to create something like Angel after this huge success of Buffy, and to create it in such a way that it has its own look, its own lingo. And because of how the show was launched with Buffy and then having Angel come after, um, being able to tie certain episodes so that you would go from one show to the other show. So you'd have a plot start with Buffy, end on Angel, and they did that at least 3 times on the show. So I always tell people, you can't really understand both shows until you watch them with a certain kind of order that they run.
Yes,
You know,
I made a list for that when I watch it with my family, because there are plot lines that are intertwined between the two shows,
hmm
and
oh yeah,
And I think it's from season 3 of Angel. You have to see one of Buffy, then one of Angel. And at some point, I think the order changes. Then it's one of Angel and then one of Buffy.
Well, there's also a character that runs through both shows.
Yeah.
That is not a quote unquote main character, but this character has existed almost secretly, stealthily through both shows. You meet her in the first season of Buffy, and you meet the character again, I think, in Buffy's fourth season or third season. I think it's third season. And that's the last time you see the character until Angel starts. And you're doing this huge callback to the third season of Buffy. And this character comes in, and I think all the way up until the final episode, where you see this character just come through, and it's like, wow, that's commitment, but that helps to create this universe. It's all connected. And oh geez, look, I know Joss Whedon's taboo for a lot of people. I at least just got to say this: he and his writing staff kicked ass. He probably had the best genre writing staff on television, and he knew how to run that room. Both rooms, really. To me, it's still a mystery to me that no one's been able to match what that group could produce, because the episodes they came up with, the things that they did on both shows. But I mean, since we're going to keep this just for Angel, some of the storylines they did with his character, I never thought they could ever go beyond some of the stuff they had done on Buffy, and they did it. The episode where Angel just the episode where he allows the lawyers to die.
With Drusilla and
Uh-huh.
Darla?
Yeah, he just sort of just coldly just closes the door, but he sees them in there being attacked, and he's just looking right at the head guy. And they lock eyes, and Angel just sort of has that I don't care look on his face. No real expression, and he just closes the door and walks away. And then Angel has to, that's the other thing. With Buffy, you can have things happen. With Angel, there are consequences to all your actions. And that's Holland Manners, who was running Wolfram and Hart, the law firm, who Angel later sees in another episode because he had died.
Yeah.
And he sees Angel in an episode where he takes him on a little bit of a elevator tour. He begins to tell him exactly how Wolfram and Hart, this evil law firm, fits in with everything. And you notice the elevator's going down the entire time. And he begins to explain that, yeah, they're there. They certainly are dealing in the black arts. They certainly lean a certain direction. But you know what? A lot of what's going wrong in the world is really just the way the world is. Humans are doing it to themselves. Ultimately, it's basically going to bring about hell on earth, basically. It's going to create hell. And this entire tit for tat well, not tit for tat. Harlan's doing the majority of the talking. To Angel. Angel has to basically stand there and take this. And what he eventually, but what the audience realizes is that by the time Harlan has explained how things work and how things are working, that, hey, the thing is, in the end, we're not really responsible with how bad things are going in society. The humans are doing it themselves. They are creating what is going on. And he intimates to Angel that basically hell is already here. And then the
His
door
words are,
opens because the elevator's been going down all this time. So
yeah,
you're thinking he's going to open up the door to hell. No, it's Los Angeles.
and his words are, "This is home office."
Yep,
Boom.
this is the home office.
And you can see the expression in Angel's face.
Yeah, it was made to crush him because here he thought he was doing some good. He thought, well, I'm a vampire, but I'm a vampire that can do some good. And you have this guy's like, yeah, you may save the occasional person here or there, but in the end, this is a tide. You're just one person standing at this huge tide that is coming.
And if there's a better
And
way to demoralize a hero character, I don't know what it is, than the villain to, basically show him that, like, yeah, you think you've been winning victories against me this entire time. You've been nothing more than a speed bump.
and I'm not even the big bad. I'm dead.
Yeah.
I think my favorite exchange though was this. There's a scene in Angel where Angel he's being blackmailed to break somebody out of a magical prison.
Oh yes.
Yeah, he's standing there. He's looking at this guy who's obviously looks like he's inside this tube and he's in pain, and he's just standing there.
He's on flames.
Yeah,
and
And
he
then-
asked to the jailer, "He's not in pain." Yes, but he's not screaming. No, he's screaming. But why can't I hear him? It's my will not to.
yeah. Well, but there's a demon standing right next to Angel who you did not see there before. He's just they're both just standing there looking at this guy. Angel turns and is like, oh, hey, and the demon's just like, hey, how's it going? Like that.
When did you get here? I've been here the whole time.
I mean, that is my favorite exchange in the entire series. I just thought to myself, okay, if by that point you're not totally invested in this show, I can't help you.
That scene has weight. But you know what scene? What scene is always? It will always be on my mind. When Wesley get tricked into giving Angel's son to the vampire hunter, and Angel goes to the hospital, and he's with his probably his best friend, who is lying in a hospital bed.
Can't
And he has yes, and he tell him, I know what you did was for protecting my son and everything, and I know that you fear that I was becoming jealous. I need you to know, I really need you to know, I didn't. This is Angel. It's me. And when Wesley acknowledged that, yes, I know you haven't changed, is in that moment when at super speed he takes the pillow and put it out and starts smothering him and start yelling, "You took my son!" Oh my God, that was
Oh yes. It's just, they say it in the highlights, man. Smile Time, one of my all-time favorite episodes. Really, again, every episode in season 5 I love. Season 5 works for me.
Yes,
but
it's absolutely more darker. And man, the thing with Fred, I'm on the ropes with that.
You had to go bring that up. Oh, just when I thought I was over that.
Hey, by the way, Adima has a question for you.
Yes.
He wants to know if you're going to go
for Eastwood special today. I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna try to set up some more, record some interviews while I'm here at Tremendicon, because there are a lot more guests. Here.
Yes. Yes, I remember that schedule. No, yeah, you have to do those interviews, man.
Tree Rock Creations. I can't watch the BSG remake Space Battles because they give me motion sickness. You know what? I can see that. I can
That
definitely see
means they
that.
are well done.
I just think that in the end, yeah, good show. Somewhat controversial ending, but good show. To finish off with Angel, great show. Uh, if you're one of those people that have never seen it and you're going to give it a try, first, let me just say I envy you. Uh, it's and I can't heap enough praise on Angel as a television series. There's a reason why all the other, in my opinion, all the other vampire TV shows fall short. Because Angel, that television show could do anything. They could do comedy, they could pathos and heartache, heartbreak, and just, oh, they did it all. And just the writing staff is phenomenal on that show. And of course, the sets. Again, the Hyperion Hotel is one of my
Oh,
all-time favorite sets of any television
yes.
show. And that's what I believed until I saw season 5. And then it's like, nope, Wolfram and Hart. Nope. I love the Wolfram and Hart set.
You're evil.
All their sets. Well, it's not about being evil. It's like heaven. Look, I can admit that I've had that Batman fantasy, and to be able to have that corporate office and have the bedroom nearby and take the elevator down and just see all those cars. It's like, oh yeah. When I was single and watching Angel, I could dig everything I was watching. It's like, yeah, hell yeah. I want that. It's like you can tell yourself I can make a difference working on the inside, which is what they tell each other. And again, it's the continuing lesson that Harlan tried to educate Angel with. Because by the time you get to the end of season 5, you realize again, you have to ask, are we really making a difference? I mean, you're negotiating selling a baby to be sacrificed to a group of demons. I mean, Angel and the crew have to really look at where they are and look at everything that had happened over the past year and question, are they making a difference? Because from the outside, it's looking like they're they're losing. I mean, they have their happy days. And again, there is no sadder end than to watch ultimately what happened to Fred. I would never wish that on any character that I even hated. What happened? I mean, I can't watch that. Outside of the episode from Buffy called The Body, that is the hardest episode for me to watch. So, as much as I love the character Illyria, I can't help but slightly hate that character because
Yeah.
of what happened to Fred.
Yeah. That is.
Hopefully,
That
we didn't
was
run
a.
you off, Pope.
No.
Mhm.
I've just been kind of dealing with stuff in the background here. I got something cooking, so I have to.
Oh,
keep
okay.
Which tragedy is worse for you? Fred's or Cordelia?
Well, let's just be fair. Fred, Cordelia, Doyle, out of the 3, I'd have to go with Fred because there's no chance at all.
There's nothing.
There's nothing. There's nothing for her. There's no second chance at all. Considering how she came into the story, what she lived through, and that's her ending. But that's life sometimes. It can be unfair. It's radically unfair. That's just a hard scene to watch. So, yeah, that rates is in my top 5 character deaths on genre television. You know, if you can actually sit there and watch that and not feel anything, you know, because you really, Amy Acker sells that. She sells what's happening. And what Team Angel do to try to bring her back in the following episode. Yeah. Anyway, so that's all I got. Those are all of the shows that are celebrating anniversaries. All I can say is it's a great list, lots of good TV. We may not have gotten to everything. We may have to do a separate episode in the future about some more anniversaries coming this year. Because look, we're getting close to the halfway point of the year. We're not done with the year yet. Still got a lot more to go. But for today, I think we've done our best. So, Pope,
Yes, sir.
tell us, where can people find you, and what do you have coming up next?
Well, every Saturday night at 11 Eastern, you can find me over on Rumble at my channel for a midnight mass, where I basically do a 2-hour radio show playing you guys some music that I love. Usually if I'm on Vinyl Revival or 70s Rock Band's channel, we'll talk about, or I'll play some stuff that we've talked about that week. And just some classic heavy metal and hard rock tunes that I've always loved, and just hang out for a bit and talk. So I always enjoy doing that. I do have an episode of Rock and Roll Religion coming out whenever I get around to finishing the editing on it. Is me and Writing Raven talking about Lord of the Lost, which is an outstanding band that I don't think gets enough attention. And other than that, I'm on here and on 70s Rock Band show every Monday for It's Only Talk and Roll or whatever we're doing that week. But thanks for having me on, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to interview, the creator of one of my favorite franchises of all time.
What's going on? Why is this show going on so late?
Oh God, the grumpy old man's here. Gotta go.
Gary,
I admit
Gary,
it.
there's
Hello.
if you look out of your window, you can see clouds. You can go and shout at them.
Clowns?
Clouds.
Clowns. There, let's put Keith where he's supposed to be, up here.
The hell are you doing, man?
Hey, Gary.
Fixing it because Mark. Hey, buddy. I just stopped in and say hi to you guys. I was on my way over to visit with Anima, and then I saw you were still alive, and I'm like, I'm going to pop in and go, what the fuck's going on? Hold on. Let me guess. Keith was late. Keith was late?
Yes, I was.
Hey, Snort a
Yes, I was. We had a really good interview.
Oh, look who's here. Awesome.
We had a really good interview with Ross Babcock. And
Ross Babcock. Remind me who that is?
Co-founder of
PASA, yeah. He is a guest here at Tremendicon. And we were talking about his career in making games and being the co-founder of FATSA.
About before. Yeah, okay.
So, yeah. And again, Martin was really excited to talk to him. But we had a really good interview with him.
Outstanding.
I have to commend Pope and Martin on their questions and their ability to be able to interview Ross. So,
Oh man,
thank
and
you.
then we
Awesome.
we had our anniversary celebrations.
Excellent, man. How's David doing? Stanfield.
He's good.
If
He's good. He's
Oh.
according to his wife. He's hello. Can you hear me?
yes,
Yes.
Oh, he's good. He had to get a shot so that he could get through the day. But I think this year's Tremendicon is going to be terrific. They got a nice list of guests. Ross Babcock still has his BattleTech charity game tonight. There are still 5 spots left. So for those of you out there who would like an opportunity,
you should do it.
I'll see if they'll let me. But they're doing it for charity.
I can tell right now, Tremendicon's internet is garbage. I can tell.
Yeah,
because you're fluttering when you talk, and I can tell you're probably.
hey, look who's here.
Hey, Kitty, what's up? Hey, I got to go, guys, but I wanted to remind everybody Clint Eastwood's celebration tonight at 6:00 Central Time. We will be talking about his career and tell some stories about Clint Eastwood. One that a lot of people don't know. And it's because of his son. I may actually show the story with the interview with his son on Joe Rogan, because it was an amazing story. But anyway, then later at night, I'm going to be doing our first premiere of 80s Fright with Greg from Fanzine tonight. And we're going to have Nadia here. And she's also invited another friend, but he's not going to make it this Thursday. But when we do the next show next month, he'll be on the show with us. So we'll have a really good panel of people who know their horror, which will be fun. So
cool.
I don't know if anybody else wants to join tonight, but you guys are welcome. But we are going to have a hot town in the old town tonight. Yeah. Anybody remember that line?
Fantastic.
Huh?
Oh yeah,
Jack Nicholson.
Hot town, the old town
The old town tonight. So, but by the way, last night, God, that stream went on forever with Cameron Pasha. Had a blast.
Yeah.
The first hour, I wasn't too sure about things because it was just like, am I in the right stream? Because they were talking about religion, and I was just like, I don't know if I want to go into religion here and where I stand on that stuff. But then we finally broke, and I started talking about Carl Jung, synchronicity, and about my one weird incident. Because I've had many paranormal incidents, but that was one of the weirdest moments of my life where I had a dream, woke up from it, disturbed by it, and everything that occurred in the dream happened within 3 days.
Wow.
As it was in the dream. And it really weirded me out. But then I realized that all the information, and that's the thing that Jung talks about, all that information is in the air, in the ether. And your brain, newspapers, people talking, general moods, energy, shit like that, your brain collates information constantly. And it breaks that information down where your conscious mind doesn't. Your subconscious does. And your subconscious tries to whisper at night when you're sleeping, hey, dude, that bitch is sleeping around on you. Just telling you, letting you know. Things like that. And so it's not as magical and mystical as a lot of people make it out to be. I don't believe in mysticism.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's not real. It's just I don't believe in that. It's hocus pocus crap. But I do believe in telekinesis and stuff like that, but I don't think it's what people think it is. I think it's all about energy and energy displacement.
Mhm.
Pope agrees with me. I know that. Pope's not even listening. Yeah, she's waiting for me in the studio. I got to go. So have fun. Glad you got the interview done. And I guess be on time next time, huh, Keith? You think?
Yeah.
Waiting in the studio,
Yes, I
you
will.
jerk. All right, guys. I'll see y'all later, man. Have a good day.
Good to see you, man.
Thank you.
Seeing you. Bye.
Flip City.
Bye, everyone.
Woo. Well, good show, everybody. Good show. I want to again commend Pope and Martin for just asking some truly relevant and salient questions, and for at least helping to make me look like I at least was decent today. But I want to thank everybody that. Yeah. I want to thank everybody for hanging out and allowing us to entertain you for a little bit. And again, just to let you know, Tremendicon. Follow them on Facebook, Instagram, X. I think even on Rumble. I'll have to check that one out. But it's a good event, good cause, and a lot of really good guests. So I'm going to try to see if I can get some more interviews and get us more information and hopefully entice a few more of you out there to want to just come by and hang out. At least hang out with me this weekend. So, on behalf of everyone here at Pop Culture Minefield, this has been Morning Coffee with Keith and Martin and Pope. Have a nice day, everybody.
See you guys.